Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of the Spirit Box with Avani, Heather, and Vale. In this podcast, we talk about all things paranormal and true crime related while desperately attempting to stay on topic. If that sounds like fun to you, then take a seat, turn the lights on, and join us for this episode of Oosp. Okay. So Avani knows my stories, but Vale, I have very white bread stories in comparison to her, and I'm sure you.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
veils are that's some
the
shit.
I had little shit like, hearing things like voices and shit like that, but I never really paid a lot of mind to it. The biggest thing that has happened in my house is that one night, obviously I was sleeping, and I obviously sleep with my glasses off because that's what you're supposed to do. And
Because the plastic rubs against the side of your head when you sleep.
yeah, can confirm. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I had left my laptop on, so I had a little bit of light from that. And I went to go to the bathroom. Didn't put my glasses on or anything. So I go to the bathroom. While I'm in the bathroom, my dad, whose door was right next to mine, he left his room to go to the kitchen. But I didn't hear him go to the kitchen at all. So I come out of the bathroom, his door is open, and I walk into my semi-dark room, and I see um a tall, broad-shouldered outline. And it was really dark and I had my glasses on, so I was just looking at, the shape, and I swore to God it was my dad. I was like, "Dad, what are you doing? Like like why are you in my room in the middle of the night? Like what's up?" And he didn't respond. So I went to push him, like playfully push him, and my hand went through whatever the outline was. And I immediately felt complete fucking terror and ran my 20-something-year-old ass out of the
Oh shit,
room.
you were 20. I
Yeah.
imagined a
No,
child.
this was like within the last fucking 10 years. Like I can't remember exactly when it happened cuz it's been long enough now, but yeah, scared the shit out of me. I instantly turned into a fucking child again and was like, "Oh my God, I'm so scared." Um so that's the most serious thing that's happened in my house. The other thing that I told Ivani about that sticks in my memory is I actually went to Gettysburg with a friend. And we decided to do one of the stupid ghost tours, which we knew was going to be stupid or whatever, but we went with this group because there are a billion in any place that's of historic anything. There's going to be a billion ghost tours. Yeah, so there's a million ghost tour groups or ghost investigation groups in all these historic places with tourism and stuff, and they're all trying to get customers. We went with this group because they were like, "Oh, we use actual equipment. You guys can, use them and experiment however you want, blah blah blah." So we went with that group, and there were two major things that happened on that ghost tour. The first one, we went to this covered bridge, um, and the woman who was leading our group, which there were only like four of us anyway, uh, but the woman who was leading our group was telling us about how this ex-slave, who was part of the Union Army, had apparently like died on that bridge or something. But he liked to smoke cigarettes. And this is before I ever started like smoking weed and all the things that come with that. So so what she does is she takes a cigarette and she places it on the railing. And the railing is pretty straight. It's not like, gravity's going to pull the cigarette. Like she balances it and it stays still. Stays straight, everything's great. And she starts talking to the ghost whose name I can't remember. But she starts asking it, "Hey, can you turn the cigarette for us?" And it fucking, guys, it fucking spun. It just spun enough to like stop on the railing right before falling off. There was no wind. The other side of the bridge, there's a drop off, so it's not like somebody was there with a fucking stick, like there was no reason for that to happen. And she made it happen, like she asked for it to happen multiple times. It happened 2 or 3 times and it only fell once. But the thing is, it happened in different directions. So the first time it turned to the right, the second time it turned to the left, third time, it turned wherever. But it just wasn't super consistent. And so we're watching this happen, and then she's like, "All right, I'm gonna light the cigarette so you can take a drag." And I swear to fucking God, this cigarette was burning, but it wasn't like you can tell. I don't know how many people, if you guys have ever smoked cigarettes or whatever, but when you pull air through the cigarette, the lit part kind of like goes towards, like you're sucking in that fire. And it looked like that was happening. And there was no wind. So I was like, what the fuck? So that was cool. And then there was this place in Gettysburg as well. It was the last place on our trip. They called it Suicide Bridge because apparently a bunch of people would suicide there.
Oh, really? I could never have guessed that's why they called it that. Wow.
There were like stories
inventive name
of people, who have driven off the bridge or jumped off the bridge or whatever. That was actually the craziest experience for me because it wasn't so much like a cigarette was turning or whatever. It just felt heavy. She didn't tell us much about the bridge like we got there and she was like, "Okay, I'm not going to tell you any of the stories about this bridge." Obviously, we knew the name. But she didn't tell us any of the stories. She was like, "I want to know how you guys feel on the bridge." So we take the step from this dirt road onto the stone of the bridge, and pretty much as soon as you step on that stone of the bridge, like it felt weird. Like it just felt really heavy and hard to breathe. It felt super heavy and hard to breathe. And the further across the bridge we got, the colder it got. And I swear, it was a warm night in fucking Gettysburg. And on the other side of the bridge, we could see our breaths. The cloud of our breaths coming out. It was fucking wild. The cloud, the steam, whatever it's supposed to be fucking called. But, and then the last thing I'll say about it, while we were investigating the bridge, we did hear like a couple knocks. Some of the EVPs would go off every once in a while. But the other side of the road, when you looked down from the bridge, it was so fucking dark down that pathway. And they had blocked off the bridge, so you can't drive down there. We would have had to just walk. But it was so dark, and I did not, looking at it, I felt like something was off with it. So I turned towards the woman and I was like, "Hey, what's down that way? Where does this road go?" And she was like, "I'm not going down there." And I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "You can go down there, but I'm not going down there." And I don't know if she was just trying to be, bullshitty, like they tend to be, but
trying to create some atmosphere.
But it was like, it was such a weird type of blackness, which I know it was like, there's no lights down there or anything, but it just seemed so much darker than it should have been. So, and then I was gonna go down there, but I pussied out, so.
I don't know, I ain't going to
I didn't want to
haunted
test
shit.
it. I figured that was not the day to test it. So those are my stories, which are pretty tame in comparison to Ivani's.
Well, I think I'll fill her in the middle because your first story sounds like my story.
Really?
Yeah, it has similarities because mine was also my father, but not my father.
Ugh, I hate that.
But mine happened as a teenager. Yours happened as a semi-adult.
Yeah, yeah, it fucked me up for a while.
Like I was in high school, and so it's not just my story. It's happened to my brother as well. During that time, we moved to we had lived in different places in New Jersey. We moved to the second house in New Jersey, not the one with the
Yeah.
hanged man. This is why I have to make that difference because the first house in New Jersey was the one with the hangman. The second house is what happens the other time.
Oh my gosh.
So I have two brothers. I'm
Uh-huh.
the youngest. My older brother was in college, and as an adult, he no longer wanted to share a room with my other brother.
Okay.
So in this time, the house had a walk-in closet, but the walk-in closet was big enough to fit a mattress. So my older brother decided he was going to sleep in that closet because he doesn't want to sleep with my brother who snores like a lion.
Fair.
So my story is because I've always had insomnia.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, the first time I had insomnia, I was 3 months old. I had insomnia since way back, but I didn't
That
know it was
sucks.
insomnia
Yeah.
until like 3 years ago. They're like, "Yeah, you have idiopathic insomnia. It started when you were a baby," and I was like, so as a
It's like, damn, that
teenager,
explains a
I
lot.
couldn't I couldn't sleep well. So my parents gave me a TV, and during the night, I turned on the TV, and the noise would kind of help me, like,
Yeah.
lull myself to sleep. But sometimes I'd fall asleep and leave the TV on. So my dad would come into my room, he'd look at me, I'd turn off the TV, and he'd tell me goodnight. So
Yeah.
one night, I'm sitting there watching TV, and I see my dad walk in. So I look over to the door, I see my dad, I look at the TV, I turn off the TV, I look over at the door. That door never opened.
Uh,
That door also never closed.
what?
How did my dad get in here? How did my dad get out? That wasn't my dad. So I open the door and I walk down the hallway and I go over to my parents' room.
Uh-huh.
My dad snores louder than my middle brother. You can hear him snoring from down the block. So I could hear my dad when I got to the room, I could hear him snoring. And I was like,
Nope.
I was so confused. I didn't know. I was even scared. I was more confused. I had no idea what was going on. I was like,
Yeah.
crazy. Then a few days pass and I'm walking over like to the bathroom. I'm walking down the hallway. When you get to the middle of the hallway, there's some stairs, and if you look down, you can see down to the hallway to the kitchen. So
Mhm.
I'm walking by, and I like kind of glance out of the corner of my eye, and I see someone at the bottom of the stairs. So I turn down and I look down, and my dad's standing at the bottom of the stairs. But like whatever, I'm going to the bathroom. When I go over to the bathroom, the door to the bathroom is in front of my parents' room, and I hear
Uh-huh.
my mom talking on the phone to my dad, who's at work. So I like lean back and I look down the hallway again, and I look down the stairs, and there's no one there. So like I
Mm.
don't go to the bathroom, and I go into my mom's room, I jump into the bed and I wait. And I wait for her to go down first, but I don't tell her why I'm scared.
Yeah.
So a few more days pass, and it all culminated with something crazy happening to my mom, something crazy happening to me, and something crazy happening to my oldest brother. But I'm not going to tell you what because that's another story. But then my brother tells me, "Oh, that's because when stuff happens to us, we like never share it." Because I was skeptic. I never believed shit. That's why I was scared the first time. And I wasn't
Uh-huh.
really I was slightly nervous the second time. So my brother, while he was sleeping in the closet one night, he heard people talking over him. Like, he was laying in bed, and he could hear people talking right above him. And he could hear them talking and whispering and talking. And when, like, he woke up, they were like, shh, he's here. And they'd stop.
Oh.
Then, another night, he sees me walk into his room and go like this. So he stands up, he opens the door, he walks out the room, and he goes into my room, and I'm sleeping.
Oh.
So I didn't wake him up.
Oh.
No,
And then
thank you.
another night, my dad, he sees my dad. My dad wakes him up, tells him that it's time to get ready for church. My brother gets ready. He gets dressed. He puts on his clothes. He goes downstairs. He goes into the garage and realizes everyone else in the house is asleep.
No. So, did you guys like think it was like a shapeshifter or like something like that?
So, what we kind of like ended up doing was, okay. Someone had gifted something to my mother that just so happened to be harboring something.
Oh.
They didn't know it was harboring anything, but instead, like, they just thought it was like something nice to give her. But for us, it was haunting me, my mom, and my oldest brother.
So how did you guys put together what it was?
So after what happened to me, what happened to my brother, and how what happened to my mom, it all culminates and some big thing happens. So then my mom is like, my mom is very spiritual, and she's very Catholic, and she's gone through some crazy things. My mom's performing an exorcism. But my mom knows, like, symptoms.
Oh, yeah.
So she was thinking, everything in this house is as it was before. What's changed and what's new?
Mm.
And she knew she had gotten a gift. So she got that gift, and that's how she found out that it was that had brought everything into the house. Yeah.
Heather looks frozen or nauseous.
I think it's a little bit of both. Ash is frozen.
I'm frozen?
No,
you're not yet.
you're good.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm so used to Discord doing this shit for some reason. I think I would shit myself. I am I almost shat myself the night that I saw my dad's outline and then my hand went through it. So, what the fuck?
Like, I got so much more scared when I realized my mom was on the phone with my dad than than when I walked to follow him and he was asleep.
Well, because even the first time, like, if I had been in your place, I would have thought, oh, I just wasn't paying attention. Like, obviously, he had to open the door to come in here. It was him. And then he had to close it to leave. I'm probably just half out of it. But, like...
He was snoring!
Yeah,
how did he fall asleep so fast?
Yeah, yeah. But, like, especially, like, seeing them at the bottom of the stairwell and then having somebody on the phone with them in a different place. Like, what? Like, fuck that shit.
Like, I bolted into my mom's room and I just, like, jumped into the bed and then I waited and I didn't tell her what happened.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, oh, are you hungry? Are you waiting to get something to eat? And I was like, yes, I am. I am starving. Can you go downstairs?
That's pretty much what I did when I saw the shadow in my room. I fucking bolted. I literally ran into my dad's room, jumped on the bed, and hid under his covers until he came back from the kitchen. And he was like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I can't sleep. Like, fuck. And then I fucking was nervous. I'm still, like, sometimes I still get nervous. It's this room that I'm recording it. But, like,
Someone get this woman some sage.
I wouldn't go to fucking sleep that well. I would keep the lights on as long as possible. Like, that shit fucked me up. If that was in other parts of my house, I would move out. Even if it's, it's like, is that a shadow? I don't know. I'm leaving. Bye.
Shadow, you can pay rent. It's due
Yeah.
this time of the month.
Yeah,
If
you're
you
not
wanna
gonna mooch
stay-
off of me.
Don't touch my shit. Don't come in my room. Don't eat the last of the cheese. I need that for nachos.
I don't
And you
wanna
only
see
have
you.
to pay. You only have to pay a third of the rent because you're not gonna use the water. But if you fuck with the lights, I'm up at it.
Yep, yep. As long as you don't use the utilities, you don't have to help pay for the utilities, you know?
Just to be here, it's a privilege.
I make that joke, but fuck that. I'm always gonna find a way to get something out of my house. Fuck that. I'm not sharing my house with nothing.
I moved out. I moved. It could have the house.
Fuck the house.
Fuck this place.
I mean,
I
when this
broke my
house was
lease
haunted,
and left.
like when this house was haunted, my parents were like, "What about if you get another house? What if you leave that one?" And I was like, "I don't think I can go to the Harbor Bay and be like, hey guys, I can't live in this house. Can you get me a new one?" They're like, "No, the base is at capacity. Why do you want to move out of that house?" "Well, it's haunted." No way in hell they're gonna fucking be like, "Sure."
Well, whenever we do end up talking about the Michigan Hell House, one of the most interesting things about it to me was how the police were involved and everything with it. So, like, you just gotta tell them to do a stakeout on your house.
It's like, "Cops, you can stay in my house, I'll stay in your house. You have fun with the ghost."
Yeah, like, you tell me how it goes.
Yeah. You let me know if you're able to hit it with a bullet or not. Because if you can't, not interested.
I'll start
Right.
fucking swinging. So, I actually forgot until I did that motion. It reminded me that, it was the middle of the day, too. I walk over into my brother's room and I see someone standing at the corner of his bed, like looking towards the window. And then I turn around and I walk down the hallway and I go to my oldest brother and I'm like, "Yo, there's someone sitting in your room. There's someone sitting in your room. Like, what do we do?" So my brother walks in and he just throws the door open and he puts his arms up. "Hey, motherfucker, get the fuck out of my room!" And he starts fucking pretend swinging. And like he like throws the curtain back and there's like no one in his room, and I was like, "Why the fuck would you do that?" He's like, "Because I'm fighting a ghost if he's gonna be in my room."
I wish I had ghost fighting balls. I do. I just don't think I do. I don't think so. I think I have get the fuck out of here balls.
Yeah.
He's like, think he's the first person who told me that if it knows you're scared of it, like, then it will give him power. I think he was the first one to tell me that. And that's
Yeah.
why he did it. Like, I'm pretty sure he was scared, but he didn't want to show it. One, he didn't want to show it in front of me, and two, he didn't want to show it in front of the ghost.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Avani, do you believe that too? That if you show fear, it gives power?
I would not talk about it in the house. Once I'm sure it knew I was scared. But I wouldn't talk about it in the house. Because I believed that if I talked about it, I would give it power. If I openly acknowledged it and openly talked about it, that it would grow and it would have been a lot worse than it was.
I definitely don't know. Like, there are certain negative entities that I don't like to talk about. Like, saying their name makes me feel like, oh, I'm calling something. Like,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes if you call on it too much, you talk about it too much, you try and, like, you attract it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely feel like, like if I was in a similar situation to what Avani's experienced, like, I'm sure I wouldn't talk about it in the house either. Because I'd probably be too scared shitless. Do you think that there's more to negative energy over just like talking about it.
What do you
Like
mean?
if you feel fear or dread or anger or, depression, negative emotions like that, in relation to it, do you feel like that gives it more power than just talking about it, or just any thought whatsoever towards it would affect it the same way?
They're like one and the same. Like I think they both feed on it, maybe probably in different ways,
Yeah.
but they both would make things worse.
Yeah, I kind of think about it in the sense of like if you're hanging out with your friends and one of your friends is like super bummed out, it pushes onto everybody.
It does.
Everybody starts to feel that. And so that is really only when you're in that moment with that being that's actually there. But when you're in your home, which is supposed to be this place where you're safe,
Right.
and you're at your most vulnerable, if you feel that all the time when you're in your home, I think, yes, it gives it power, but also psychologically it makes it feel like it has more power over you because you're now living in fear. And there's this thing that's like, great, I got you where I want you. I barely have to do anything now to fuck you up. So I think it's a little bit of both.
I think you would have to be quite used to those types of things to not feel any type of fear. Like if you're talking about an entity in your home or something, because how many people in the world, let's say ghosts definitively exist, right? How many people would see a ghost in their house and go, "Oh, hey Joe, it's just another day." Like, no, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, a fucking ghost."
I think that depends, honestly, because like when I was a little girl, we lived in a 2-story brick 4-bedroom house, and it was me and my mom and my dad and my sister, and then briefly my mom's older brother lived with us in one of the bedrooms. And he left, and he was the guy that became a carny and died. And they ended up moving me from
Veil.
my bedroom.
I was like, oh boy. Like, oh.
It's great. I've got
Story.
tons of great stories about him. So they moved me from my bedroom. I was the youngest, so it was the smallest, into his room. And I remember as a little girl, like if I were upset and in my room crying by myself, I would feel like somebody was hugging me. But it felt familiar and comfortable, and I never had a fear. And I didn't really connect that until I was a lot older. So I don't think that no matter who it is matters, I guess is what I'm saying. Like just like we as people can exude warmth.
Yeah.
I think ghost spirits, entities can do the same thing. They can exude warmth, they can exude fear. And I think that that's why people talk about, I go in a room and it feels heavy. Or like, it feels a lot lighter in here, or it feels suppressive and stuffy. Like I think that's part of it.
So like I have 2 stories on this topic. The first one, Heather said, oh, no one just goes around their house and just like chill with their ghost. Okay, so I kind of skipped over some parts that I didn't feel were important to the story.
And now they're important. Here we go.
Now they're important to the story. So I always say that my middle brother can't see anything, but he was actually part of this.
Okay.
When all of those weird things with like what seemed to be a doppelganger was showing up, shapeshifter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There was something weird going on with the TV. There was a really big TV in the kitchen area, because it was a kitchen / living room. And it would randomly turn on and off just without the remote, just no reason at all. We didn't think of ghosts, and since we hadn't shared our experiences, we were just dicking around.
Yeah.
So my middle brother says, oh, there's a ghost in our TV. Let's call him Harold. So randomly, the TV will turn on, and my brother will go, hey, Harold, stop messing with the TV, turn it off. And the TV would turn off.
Nope, hate it.
Or we'd walk into the kitchen, we'd hear like a static, and my brother's like, "Hey Harold, how you doing?" And the TV would turn on.
Nope.
So when you say no one's just like walking around their house being friends with a ghost, so we're not sure what it was, but that's very coincidental because this is like 2000 and fucking 5 or something. We didn't have smart TVs. That shit
Yeah.
wasn't voice activated.
Now I call bullshit on that because you know what I meant, and that was just a coping mechanism in that time.
I would say if all Harold did was turn the TV on and off and didn't scare the shit out of you, I could live copacetically with Harold.
Nope.
But like after everything had happened with the whole fucking shit, and my mom found out what it was, and then she got rid of it and she dealt with it. The TV stopped dicking around.
Shut
Harold
up.
was no longer there.
I
See, and that's the shit that gets me. It's
Yeah.
like, and then it
So-
stopped, and it's like, what the fuck?
So like we were never scared of Harold, but we were scared of the other things.
What if Harold was the other things?
He probably could have been. We have no fucking clue. We just know that we like that was our way of coping with it. Like you said, it was
Yeah.
a coping
Yeah,
mechanism.
yeah,
We were just
yeah.
like, "Hey, Harold," and the TV would turn off, and I was like, "Stop fucking with the TV, Harold," and the TV would turn off,
Well,
and we were just like joking.
oh
We were joking, and Harold would turn off the TV.
I would not be able to live with Harold because, first of all, stop fucking with the TV.
now he's
Where the
paying
TV 's gonna
electric.
break. Like,
I don't want to
know.
hear that
That
shit in the
TV
middle of the night.
That TV lived for quite a few years. Like, after that happened, it never turned off and on by itself. It had no shorts. Nothing was wrong with it. It was a perfectly good TV.
Mm-mm.
Harold just happened to be fucking with it. But then the other thing that you guys were talking about was the hug inside the room. So when I was very little, not very little, I was like 9 or 10, my grandfather died.
Uh-huh.
But my grandfather visits my mom. And no one in the family smokes cigars. Only my grandfather. He would roll tobacco, like he would buy tobacco plants, like very old fashioned. He was a true Taino, and a Taino is the Native Americans of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Like he really did like have like that agricultural thing. So he would roll his cigars and he would roll the tobacco inside his cigars and he would smoke every single day. But no one else in the entire family has ever smoked, not even cigarettes. And every once in a while, like let's say something really bad happens in the family, and then the next day you'll smell the tobacco in the air and you'll feel a presence and it makes you feel like better. It makes you feel nice and warm and protected.
See, I don't think I've ever felt a presence. I don't know, like, I was half asleep when I saw the shadow person. But like I don't think I've ever felt a presence, which is interesting because I am very sensitive to the moods of people around me, like the energy living people are giving off. And I think that's why I'm so skeptic, is because I'm like, everybody talks about feeling these things, and like I've rarely felt anything. So,
One time my mom was really, really sick and my mom was like almost dying. My mom was like really, it was one of the times that we almost lost my mother. And
yeah.
when we brought her home, the entire house smelled like tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
And we
He was
lived
worried, yeah.
Yeah, we don't live next to other people. We don't like our house in Puerto Rico, it's not like our houses are not next to each other. There's the big spaces between them. So if the neighbor was smoking, which you'd smoke a cigarette, who smokes cigar, tobacco, like rolled leaves anymore? No one.
Yeah.
Only my grandfather did.
Yeah.
And we went through the whole house looking to see where that smell was coming from. And it was coming from my mom's room.
I mean, tobacco is a pretty distinct smell. It's hard to fuck that up. So, like,
And
that's pretty
especially
compelling.
this kind. It's
Yeah.
rolled up leaves. Like, it's that. I don't know how to describe it because I've never seen it anywhere than over there.
Yeah.
So-
Like the big actual like tobacco leaves, like fresh leaves.
Yes.
Did he
Like dry
ever
tobacco leaves. And It's a very distinct smell. Like
Yeah.
you can't mistake it for anything else.
Did he ever smoke in your mom's house? Like when he smoked and he was there?
Before we even
lived in that
he
house?
died before we moved there.
Okay.
Like, yeah, because I was 9 years old. We were living in Maryland, I think.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
But he only lived in my grandmother's house, and we have smelled it a few times in my grandmother's house in different occasions for different things, and we'll be like, yeah, that's grandfather. Like there's such a peculiar smell.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would definitely consider that really compelling because it's just such a, like you said, it's such a unique smell, and it's a strong smell. It's not like, well, I'm getting the waft of lilies. Like, no, that shit hits you in the face. Like,
and like it's a bad smell. Like it's normally not a comforting smell. You smell that and you're like,
yeah. Yeah.
Like, and you're dying when you smell
right.
it. But like now I'll smell it and I'm like, why is my grandfather here? If I do smell it, it's been years since it's happened.
Yeah.
But
I will say my grandfather was also quite the smoker and also quite the drinker. He's not that.
So
he wasn't.
Grandfather.
Yeah.
He was bad in his youth, but great as a grandfather. At least for me, so.
Yeah, mine. But but I will say that when my grandfather, I said grandfa, in case you wanted to know.
Your grandfather.
My grandpa. When he died, my dad did see him in the same recurring dream for like the week after. I thought that was pretty fucking weird. And all the dream was dad was walking down the hallway of our home, and grandpa would walk right by him, and as they'd pass, he'd be like, hey. And then my dad would be like, hey. And then the dream would end. So fucking weird.
Mark this here.
Yep.
Because I'm going to tell you the most unbelievable story, but also I'm going to cut it out.
All right,
okay.
Go ahead.
So my brother had cancer. My brother had cancer twice.
Mm-hmm.
The first time he had cancer, it was a lot harder than the second time. And my brother was dying, and my mom was the one who stayed with my brother in the hospital every day, all day. And one night my mom wakes up to my to my uncle walking into the room. The thing about my uncle is, my uncle died when my mom was 10. And so my mom sees him walk into the room and put his hand over my brother's stomach. My brother had 3 tumors in his stomach. And this is why he was dying. Like my heart is racing. Like this is a real ass story, and it's actually like it does affect me to this day.
Yeah.
So he puts his hand over my brother's stomach, and my brother, the things start beeping. And the doctors have to come in. So the next day, he has a CT scan, and they find that the tumors has shrunk like 70%, and they can surgically take out his tumors now.
Oh my
Your
god.
uncle is Jesus. What's up?
And the doctors came into the room with us and like he pulled my mom aside so that me and my other brother wouldn't hear what they were talking about. And he's like, it was a lady. I remember what the lady looks like and everything.
Yeah, how do you know?
Goes up to my mom and she tells her, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in spirituality. But whatever just happened to your son defies medical science. And my mom just starts bawling. And me and my brother are sitting there in the corner listening as my brother's no longer having cancer anymore.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's an insensitive question.
Oh, no, go for it.
Okay. When she saw your uncle, did she see him as he was when he passed away, or did she see him as she imagined him to be if he were still alive then?
As a 20-year-old he was when he died.
Okay, I was just curious.
So my uncle died while he was in the army helping his friend move from one house to another. He was in the back of the truck holding onto a mattress when they got into an accident and a pole went through his skull and he died.
Hey, remember that time we talked about your family being cursed? I think you're right.
So it gets
Sorry,
worse, and I'm
but-
still gonna cut this part out. So at that time, so my uncle died in Germany. My grandma was at her house and she felt someone push her down some stairs. Her head went back and cracked against the stairs, and the exact spot that the pole went through my uncle's head at the same time, and my grandma was in a coma for 3 days.
Wait. Your grandma fell down the steps from possibly being pushed and hit her head at the same time that the pole went through your... Oh! Thank you so much for listening. If you liked what you heard and want to hang out with us some more, be sure to check out our page where you can find links to our other shows and projects. Bye!